A complete lie. That's what Eli Drinkwitz had to say about Kirby Moore talking to Arkansas. Drinkwitz also addresses his future in the coaching carousel. Let's talk about it in Locked On Mizzou.
You are Locked On Mizzou, your daily podcast on the Missouri Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, all you true sons and daughters, I'm John Miller, your Mizzou mafioso and the central scrutinizer of Missouri Tigers football and basketball. On today's program, I'm going to tell you about the proper way to look at special teams in football. Also, Eli Drinkwitz reminding us that this is not Missouri's first road game this season. What the heck is he talking about there? Well, I'll give you a reminder here in just a little bit. Also, I do want to apologize for something. For those of you on the audio side, I left Tuesday's show in the draft, so that did not end up getting posted until, well, just a little bit ago here Wednesday morning. So I don't know, I've become a pretty good broadcaster, but a producer, a little bit shaky. So my apologies there. But you know what? We're going to power through and move on to better times. And speaking of good times, well, it's good times at Mizzou football right now. And that's one thing that Eli Drinkwitz pointed out when, hey, if people are talking about me and Kirby Moore, our job status, people are interested in us, evidently. Those are the reports out there, at least. Well, that's a compliment to the University of Missouri. And most importantly, when it comes to Kirby Moore, and there was some reporting out there that he had talked to and even interviewed with the University of Arkansas for its vacant head coaching position. Well, Eli Drinkwitz was very pointed. He said it's, quote, a bunch of bullcrap, and it's a total lie, in fact. And I will say this, I had a direct message from somebody very close to the Missouri athletic program that indicated very much the same thing. So I'm certainly inclined to believe it. And for my part, I'll just say I had maybe some part in pushing this along. During one of my live shows, well, I had a live question. Somebody asked, hey, what about this thing out there about Kirby Moore to Arkansas? And I was kind of going, I'm not sure. It might be true. It might not. I just basically threw up my hands in the air. So if anything, I probably shouldn't have even asked the question. Again, a learning moment for me on what was, again, a live podcast. But regardless, here were Drinkwitz's entire comments here. He said, Kirby Moore never interviewed, didn't talk to anybody at Arkansas. It's a bunch of bull crap put out there to try to create distractions in a narrative that then comes over after the fact, after the game, and it's really disappointing. But this stuff happens because, again, Twitter ain't real, and it's just a bunch of bull crap thrown on message boards. So how do I block it out? I ignore it, and I get mad about it when people ask me about it. As far as my name associated with everything, that's awesome for the University of Missouri. It means we're doing something really good. That means our administration is committed to excellence. It means all the investment that people here have made has resulted in success. And then at one point here, Drinkwitz points out, makes fun of himself a little bit and says, I'm rambling here, so I'll basically wrap it up. So at the end here, there is an interesting comment. He says, the only thing that matters to us is 1-0 this week, and anything outside of that is a distraction that you shouldn't even worry about. Don't even let it cross your mind because, man, I have no idea. You lose 3 games in a row, you may get fired. So I wouldn't worry about that. A pretty obvious reference there by Eli Drinkwitz, of course, to James Franklin being fired at Penn State. And, well, Eli Drinkwitz, along with Mike Elko, has been one of the names sort of thrown about there. People obviously who are associated with Penn State, write about Penn State, do Penn State podcasts. They're going to start doing their hot boards and picking names and going, well, who is somebody maybe that Penn State could get? I'll just tell you this. Penn State obviously is a great program, and much like Florida, though, which could well have its job open here in a few weeks as well, I just think that shooting for a current coach in the SEC who is is winning, quite honestly, and getting whatever he wants. I think both of those programs are going to have to shoot lower than that. Nothing specific really to Drinkwitz whatsoever. I just think realistically, I don't think that's going to happen. You even see Marcus Freeman's name out there. I've seen that in regards to Penn State. I would say good luck. You think Marcus Freeman, who is the man at Notre Dame right now, is going to want to start over at Penn State? For what reason could that possibly be, would be my question. If you're at Notre Dame, that's about as good as you're going to get it. Not only are you resource-wise, you're doing great. Heck, scheduling-wise, you're doing great as well. So I will say this. Drinkwitz makes a great point. I mean, James Franklin was the absolute toast of Happy Valley just 4 weeks ago? I mean, quite literally. That's not an exaggeration at all. College Game Day was at Happy Valley when Penn State took on Oregon. They were winning the game at one point. I believe they were winning at halftime. Correct me if I'm wrong there. The point here is the college football has always been a very weird sport. Well, now I would say it's an exceptionally weird sport at this point. If Missouri and Eli Drinkwitz or any great program, again, you're a 3-game losing streak from being on the hot seat at this point. I think Eli Drinkwitz is actually right about that. And speaking of, being on the hot seat and 3-game losing streaks, Auburn in the middle of a 3-game SEC losing streak right now. So take absolutely nothing for granted in this sport. And by the way, teams like Florida and Auburn, these fans are basically, regardless of what's happening this season, even going back to last season and previous seasons, these fans have been ready to fire their coach seemingly after every loss and every bit of disappointment. I would just say, as Missouri fans, be careful of not becoming that fanatical. Let's be fans, but let's not be lunatics. And I brought up the flurry of high school recruiting activity that's been happening here the last couple weeks or so for Eli Drinkwitz and Missouri. And I have to say, Nathan Hurst over at Rock M Nation had some really good context and numbers, just kind of put it all into place. And now I'm much less worried, to say the least, about Missouri's high school recruiting right now. In fact, I'm quite encouraged. So not only good times right now for the most part on the field for Missouri, good things happening off the field as well. So let's get to that context, and also why Missouri's, frankly, really bad special teams so far aren't as big of a deal as you might think that they are. So let's get to all that here in just a bit. First, though, let's talk about Mazda, where, of course, Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride with more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else. You can feel the Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, by the way, as well. From the metallic accents to available Nappa leather upholstery, you can make everyday drives feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. And Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. It's their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to improve, whether you're running, lifting, or cross-training with your favorite instructors. And this is truly training reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with tools that help you plan, stay motivated, and reach peak performance. And I know a lot of people who want to get in shape don't necessarily want to go to a gym or go to classes and just simply work out in front of other people. Well, Peloton has all the advantages of a lot of these spin type classes, for example, but you can do it from the comfort of your own home. And by the way, all the personalized class recommendations, they're going to keep you engaged, and they're going to give you workouts tailored to your vibe, your energy level, and, well, your fitness level. So Let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus today at onepeloton.com. So a lot has been made of Missouri's high school football recruiting rankings so far this offseason. Well, Nathan Hurst over at Rock M Nation has some really good context about this run Drinkwitz and Mizzou has been on over the past few weeks. He says, quote, in the span of just 18 days, the Tigers went from a class ranking in the upper 70s to number 31, according to 24/7, and number 26, according to On3/Rivals. That's an incredible jump in less than 3 weeks for a program that had previously been looking down the barrel at their worst ranked class of the internet era. So indeed, this is really, really encouraging. And even though, hey, 26, that's the high water mark there, I guess, according to On3/Rivals, that new merger, well, that wouldn't be the best class that Eli Drinkwitz has had in his time at Missouri, but it definitely wouldn't be the worst either. And historically for Missouri, again, in that internet ranking era here, 26 is solid. In fact, it's pretty darn good, solidly above average. And as I was saying all offseason, it really seemed like this slower start, it seemed like a lot of it was a bit of a shift in strategy, at least at the very top of the recruiting rankings. You know, those guys are going to be really expensive, and it just seems like Missouri has decided to use its resources more in the transfer portal. Not that they're going to use none of their resources in the high school ranks or none of them even on some of the tippy-top guys, but I think they want to make sure that those tippy-top guys, I'm talking about guys like Williams-Winery, of course, who ended up at Nebraska after 1 year at Missouri, I think they want to make sure that those guys are going to stick around. But also, my main thing was, and to that point, my main thing was, hey, I'll start getting nervous when Missouri is no longer a real serious competitor in the transfer portal. Well, if Missouri takes a big tumble in the portal rankings, well, then I'll get nervous. I still feel that way. But also now with Missouri taking, as Nathan Hurst has said here, really just a huge, incredible jump here in just a few weeks' time, that's really encouraging because you still need to recruit the high school rankings and replenish your roster and build through high school without a doubt. I think it's both. I think you've got to do both. You got to do the portal. You got to do high school. So I think this is just a good sign, and it's a sign, as Hurst alludes to in his recent article here over at Rock M Nation, that this is just a sign that Missouri is doing things right now. By the way, one thing that I've just realized that's a little bit ironic is that I spent way more time in the previous offseason discussing Blake Craig and his impact on the Mizzou football team that I'm discussing the place kicker position right now, and it's obviously a problem for Missouri, or at least a huge question mark at the very least. Well, the reason is this past offseason, especially, well, even a couple off seasons ago, I would say, there was just a lot of talk about, oh, Blake Craig, are we sure he's good enough? That type of deal. I just wasn't all that worried about it. Number one, I felt like Craig, well, simply had the leg. I thought he was going to be good enough to get the job done. But also, place kicking, while it's obviously really dramatic when it doesn't work out at the end of games, well, quite simply, most games do not end on a place kick, and most football games are not decided by a place kick. I think for a lot of people, a good place kicker is like a warm security blanket or something. It just makes them feel better and sleep better at night. And to that point, I totally understand it. Of course, the place kicker is an important position, just like the punter is an important position, just like the long snapper is an important position. Every position on the football team is important, but they just aren't equally important. For example, I would much rather have the best shutdown cornerback, for example, a really, really good defensive back, than I would the best kicker in the SEC all day, every day. And I think if you look at the NFL, for example, well, the salaries bear out my point. The highest paid kicker in the league isn't even remotely close to the highest paid players at every single other position that is not special teams. So the point here in bringing this up really is that Missouri so far, according to S&P Plus, my favorite projections that I like to cite from Bill Conley over at ESPN, Missouri so far is 14th in the entire country in offense and in defense. So they're 14th in offense, they're 14th in defense, but then they are 111th in special teams. That's out of about 130 teams. And my point here in bringing this up is that while special teams absolutely does matter, well, reminder that South Carolina, once again, one of the best special teams units in the entire country, but Missouri is obviously the better team right now. A good reminder that while special teams is the third part of football, it's erroneous to say that special teams is 1/3 of football. Does that make sense? For example, the amount of snaps just in general that there are on offense and defense, you don't have 1/3 of those snaps divvied out equally to special teams. That's just simply not how it works. So again, let me say it again. Special teams is a third part of the game. It is not 1/3 of the game. And just to put a little finer point on this, just imagine if Missouri, you flipped it. I said Missouri was 14th in offense and defense. What if Missouri were 111th on offense instead, but 14th on special teams? Would you take that trade? I can't imagine that anybody would. Imagine how dreadful Louisiana, UMass, Missouri would have that type of offense. You'd take that to have a better punter and kicker and return game. There's just no chance that Missouri would be nearly as good of a team in that reality. So once again, it's college football. There's no real salary cap. Of course, you're going to try to make every aspect of your team as good as possible. And certainly Missouri misses Blake Craig. Just hopefully, well, it's just not as big of a factor as I think some people lead themselves to believe. But what could be a big factor, I'll tell you, 9 fumbles so far for Missouri. Eli Drinkwitz called that unacceptable. Missouri has recovered a fair amount of those fumbles, which has maybe masked that issue a little bit. But again, just in terms of how to think about this properly, in terms of future value and predictive value, it really doesn't matter how many you've recovered because you can't count on that. Of course, in the moment, it matters enormously whether you recover the ball or not. I'm just saying that's something you cannot count on for the future. If you've recovered all your fumbles, you can't just be like, well, we don't have to worry about fumbles because we're a team that recovers them. Good luck with that. And while Missouri is taking on Auburn in its first road game of the season, Eli Drinkwitz says, actually, yeah, this isn't the first road game. We took our road game in August. What's he talking about there? Well, a good time for a little reminder here and an update on Cayden Green's injury status as well. First, though, you know what? Believe it or not, the holidays are approaching. We're just a couple of weeks away from Halloween, which is exciting, but getting your home ready for guests and celebrations can feel like a lot. Well, Wayfair makes it easy to personalize your home for the holidays with a huge selection for every style and budget. And with free and easy delivery, even on the larger items, you can get everything you need without the hassle of huge delivery. And I love how easy it was to find pieces that fit, well, not only my style, but really, let's be honest, more importantly, my wife's style and budget as well. Everything was in one place, and checkout is just quite simply a breeze. So get organized, get refreshed, and get ready for the holidays for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. And when the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with SupplyHouse. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. More than 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. If you need parts fast for a project, well, SupplyHouse has next-day delivery, which is a total game changer and, most importantly, a gigantic money saver. So join the free Trademaster program today and score some serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support phone line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That is supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. So as a reminder, during fall camp, Missouri did take a road trip, essentially, to St. Charles, Missouri to play Lindenwood in a scrimmage. And this wasn't just, hey, we're going to do a day trip. They did a real stay the night, made it as close to an actual SEC type of road trip as they could. Of course, well, without the fans and the bands and, well, your parents bothering you for tickets and all of that good stuff. So this was an attempt to not only to prepare Missouri because, well, what an unusual schedule, obviously, the Tigers have to start the season. We're now 7 weeks deep into college football, and yet Missouri has not left its home stadium yet. So that was part of the thought process there. I think a second part was, and Missouri openly said this, well, Missouri didn't perform very well on the road, especially its first 2 ball games against Texas A&M in particular. Of course, against Alabama, Brady Cook sat out that ball game, a little bit more understandable. Still, anytime you lose 34-0, it's fine to look in the mirror and say, hey, what in the heck could we have done better here? No issues with that whatsoever. And also, well, the South Carolina game was a lot better, but bottom line, Missouri lost that one as well. I don't know how much credit I need to give the Tigers for beating a Mississippi State team that had kind of went off the rails. Same deal with just maybe UMass right now looking like the worst program in all of FBS football as well. So a couple road victories, but the results can be a lot better. So that was definitely the thinking there from Eli Drinkwitz and Missouri. By the way, Cayden Green said he feels pretty good and I'll be fine. That was his quote following the Alabama game and heading into Auburn this week. And Green, for the most part, seemed like himself for the most part. I didn't notice him struggling in terms of injury or production out there. I've admitted a million times I'm not exactly the world's foremost expert on offensive line play, but that was how I viewed it. And by the way, here's how I view Missouri basketball this season. Mark Mitchell was selected to second team all-conference by the media. I'm a tiny bit surprised Anthony Robinson didn't get at least third team, but the SEC is really, really deep with 16 teams alone. You do have to remind yourself, making first team all conference a little bit different than it was been making first team all Big 8 back in the day. And I suppose that is why the rosters expand out a little bit. And yet, I don't know, just as a basketball purist, I still like having 5 guys on first team all SEC. That's just me. But the point here is that Missouri predicted to finish 7th in the SEC preseason media poll. And I'll just say, I don't know what to expect from this Missouri basketball team this season. There's just so many new parts, that have left. Honor Boating, a guy that I would love to see have a breakout type season among others. I just don't know what I can expect yet because I haven't seen it yet. So you'll forgive me, hopefully, if I'll wait for my hot basketball takes. Give it 9 days here, a week from Friday, until Missouri takes on Kansas State. But I'll just say 7th out of 16 teams in the SEC. Remember, 14 of them made the big dance last season. So I would take that. I really would, sight unseen. And I think Missouri certainly has the upside to be even better than that. This is an enormous Missouri basketball team that has tons of length and a lot of shooting at the forward and center spots, which is definitely something Dennis Gates looks for. So I'm definitely interested to see this squad, all the newcomers, and, well, hopefully some old faces that are putting up, showing some new skills and abilities as well. But you know what? Hey, thanks for joining me, as always, here on Locked On Mizzou. And for your second listen, definitely check out Chris Gordy's Locked On SEC. And you know what? Until next time, I'm John Miller with Locked On Mizzou, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.